start with Mrs. Kusi, please, for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you so much again for being here, Monsieur Giroux. Of course, we're incredibly disappointed to see that the amount put forward by the government is $7 billion more, even than we had anticipated in terms of their planned deficit. And I mean, as we've seen with them, this is a trend that the numbers start at a certain level, they get worse and they get worse and they get worse, as we've seen with ArriveCAN. In your report on refocusing government spending, you stated that $500 million was planned to reduce in consulting, other professional services, and travel. $350 million was from professional services. Did this include a decrease in consulting costs? Because, of course, we've seen with ArriveCAN that this government loves its relationship with consultants, with liberal insiders, and consulting costs under this government continue to balloon. So did that include a decrease in consulting services, please?
So the refocusing government spending, the $500 million in savings for the fiscal year that is ending this year, is $150 million coming from travel services, a reduction in travel expenditures, and the remainder, so $350 million, is expected to come from a reduction in consulting services. These amounts have already been frozen by the Treasury Board, so departments cannot access them. We asked for details on these expenditures, and we find that for a significant portion of them, these will indeed be reduction in consulting services, even though for some departments there were no details provided because the reductions will come from general expenditures. So it's difficult to be absolutely certain that the totality of the 350 will be a reduction indeed in consulting services.
Right. In reviewing your report, it actually seemed to me, and having been a public servant in charge of cost centers, I have a good understanding of them. It does seem like for two major areas, both defense and Indigenous services, were either funds that were in a reserve or which were just going to be given back anyway. So in my opinion, the Treasury Board President certainly has failed on her objective, which she set for herself back in July or August, I believe that it was, this past summer. Now, the Office of the Privy Council found $1.3 million by streamlining management structures, but from the recent ArriveCAN study, it seems that management is too complex to ensure accountability and compliance through the system. That has led to significant cost overruns and astronomical, actually, we've seen in ArriveCAN. Do you think that all departments should begin looking at streamlining management and services to be more efficient and to ensure that there are cost savings in the organization and in outcomes? What would you recommend based upon what you've seen both within your reporting and with the ArriveCAN scam scandal?
Well, when it comes to management in the public service, some of you may know that there are executive class executives in the executive group. There's 5 levels, so from EX1 to EX5. And in addition to that, there's deputy ministers, including associate deputy ministers. So it's not uncommon for departments to have 5 levels of executives, an associate deputy minister or more, and 1 deputy minister. So it leads to a situation where an employee can have 7 levels of management above them, from EX1 to 5, an associate deputy minister and a deputy minister. So there is certainly room for delayering, as some would say, and it's something that was considered many years ago in the public service, where some EX classifications would be collapsed, leading to a situation where there would be 3 layers of executives as opposed to 5, which can have its own drawbacks by adding to the approval process and also leading to many other issues. So the short answer to your question is yes, there's room to reduce some levels of executives in the public service.
And again, I think that's evidenced by our longtime inability to determine who approved GC strategies because of the several layers. And as well, as we've seen, this gives the ability for different levels of management to blame each other. And so I think it definitely would improve accountability. Further to your question. My last question with my time is, throughout the ArriveCAN scam study, we've seen that there is significant missing documentation. Have you encountered this when you've been completing your studies as in your role as head of the PBO?
We don't have the same role. I don't have the same role as the Auditor General. So I don't always need to have the same level of documentation as the AG. In general, I found that the information that we need has been provided by government departments. And as I said, we don't have the same mandate, so we don't require the same level of proof. But in general, we have not had major issues in getting documents that we need for the purpose of the types of reports that we have been preparing for the benefit of parliamentarians.
Yeah, what I'm hearing from your reports consistently and through your evaluation is, I think, what we've concluded on this side of the table, and that is that the problems that we're seeing in ArriveCAN are endemic throughout government. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Kusi.